July 4th, 2026 was intended to be the center of America's 250th anniversary. Planners spent years preparing for the crowds descending on the National Mall, locking the area behind layers of heavy security fencing that turned the park into a fortified zone. This map shows the extreme heat covering the eastern United States that morning. You can see the triple-digit temperatures expanding outward across the region, placing roughly 150 million people under severe heat alerts. The impact of that heat dome was immediate. Before the day's events could even start, several surrounding D.C. communities and the main Independence Day parade were called off. It was simply too dangerous for people to be outside. By early afternoon, the conditions on the National Mall were blistering. With virtually no shade near the main stage, the thousands of spectator chairs set up for the event absorbed the direct sun. Temperature readings taken from those plastic seats registered 160 degrees. The heat quickly became a medical emergency. Emergency responders treated over 50 people for heat-related ailments right there on the grass, with a dozen taken to local hospitals. Meanwhile, pallets of bottled water sat baking in the open sun, forcing people to rely on public misting stations just to stay conscious. Long before a single firework launched or any official took the stage, the celebration had already required a massive emergency response. The sheer logistics of keeping tens of thousands of people safe in the sun were failing. Late in the afternoon, the heat finally began to break, but the relief was instantly replaced by a new threat. The National Weather Service issued severe thunderstorm watches for the entire D.C. area. Faced with the risk of lightning striking an exposed crowd, organizers made a sudden, massive call. They ordered the total evacuation of the National Mall. This map illustrates the logistical hurdle they faced. The celebration was designated a National Special Security Event. That meant the Secret Service, FEMA, and Park Police had designed the zone to be highly secure and difficult to enter. Now they had to reverse that machinery and funnel tens of thousands of people out of a lockdown area in minutes. Authorities directed the outflow into any available structure that could hold them. Thousands of attendees were pushed into federal buildings like the Ronald Reagan Building and various Smithsonian museums, packing the lobbies and hallways to wait out the storm. The security perimeter, designed to protect the crowd by keeping them rigidly contained, now acted as a physical barrier, making a rapid mass evacuation significantly more difficult. On the ground, high-level logistics translated into pure gridlock. Nowhere was this more evident than outside the National Museum of African American History and Culture. The museum reached its maximum capacity almost immediately, forcing officials to lock the doors. That left over 1,000 stranded attendees sheltering outside, pressed together under the building's concrete overhangs as the heavy rain poured down around them. The mood in the crowd began to fracture. While some people passed the time by singing God Bless America, others, exhausted and frustrated by the lack of direction, broke into loud chants and booing. For hours, the fate of the evening remained entirely uncertain. The centerpiece of America's birthday sat in limbo, stuck between a morning heatwave and an evening thunderstorm. The standstill finally broke at 9:45 p.m. At the direct insistence of President Trump, who announced he would deliver his speech no matter what, even if it meant waiting until 2 in the morning, organizers gave the order to reopen the gates. Reopening the gates triggered a final logistical hurdle. Because the secure zone had been completely emptied, Secret Service protocol required that every single attendee be fully re-screened from scratch before they could step back onto the mall. This created unmoving lines at the checkpoints. Exhausted crowds, many of whom had been on their feet in extreme temperatures for hours, found themselves pushing forward in the rain just to get back to their seats. Finally, at 11:15 p.m., more than 2 hours behind schedule, the president took the stage, delivering his remarks in the lingering drizzle of the cleared storm. The eventual payoff for the crowds who stayed the course was a massive display. Over 850,000 individual pyrotechnics launched into the night sky, shattering previous world records for the largest single fireworks show ever produced. The firework count made history, but the day itself was defined by triple-digit heat, a sudden mass evacuation, and hours of logistical gridlock. For those who remained on the National Mall, The 250th birthday became a grueling exercise in endurance, a day where the weather and security protocols mattered as much as the celebration itself.